All right, now it's time to get practical. Because purpose without practice fades. Fire without fuel dies. If you're serious about living as someone who was sent, you need a daily rhythm that locks this truth into your mind and body. Here's where it starts. Every single morning before the world gets a chance to speak into your life, you speak into your own. Out loud, not in your head, declare this. I was not made to wander, I was sent to walk in power. Don't just say it like you're reading a line. Say it like you mean it. Say it until your voice carries the conviction of someone who believes it. Then, every night before you close your eyes, repeat it again. I was not made to wander, I was sent to walk in power. You're not trying to convince the world, you're training your subconscious. Because your subconscious obeys whatever you speak with emotion and repetition, truth or lie. And if you've been speaking doubt for years, it's going to take repetition to rewrite the script. Now here's the second part. Write down your chief aim, the mission you've been given, and put it somewhere you'll see it daily. This is not just a goal. This is your divine instruction. It's your blueprint. And every action you take today must reflect the man or woman who was sent to fulfill it. No hesitation. No over-explaining. Just movement. Before you go to sleep, do a quick review. How did my actions today reflect the fact that I was sent? Where did I hesitate? Where did I act in alignment? This is how you keep yourself accountable without waiting for someone else to push you. And I promise the more you practice this, the less you'll need external motivation. Because it won't be a phrase anymore. It'll be your identity. You won't just say, I was sent. You'll live it. Every word, every step, every decision will carry the weight of that truth. Let's settle something right now. Belief without movement is dead. If your actions don't match your faith, then you don't actually believe it. Waiting is not faith. Waiting is the silent agreement that you're not ready, that you're not enough, that maybe your purpose can sit on the shelf a little longer. You've been told to be patient. But patience without obedience is just procrastination wearing a nice outfit. The truth is simple. Action confirms belief. Waiting denies it. If you truly believe that God's power lives inside you, you don't just think about building, you start building. You don't just talk about the dream, you take the first step toward it. You don't wait for certainty, you move. And certainty shows up on the road. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle the moment you decide to move. Think about every breakthrough that's ever changed history. It started as nothing more than a vision, backed by movement. Vision became invention. Imagination became reality. And here's the part most people miss. Fear doesn't leave before you start. It leaves because you start. The only cure for fear is obedience, moving in the direction of your calling before you feel ready. So here's your declaration for this moment. I walk in obedience. I move before I feel ready. I walk as if heaven moves with me. Say it again until it's burned into you. I walk in obedience. I move before I feel ready. I walk as if heaven moves with me. This isn't hype. It's not positive thinking for the sake of feeling good. This is law. This is identity. From now on, no more hesitation. No more negotiating with the dream inside you. No more asking fear for permission. Because the moment you move, the resources begin to find you. The opportunities begin to open. Not because the world suddenly changed its mind about you, but because you changed yours about yourself. Here's what made Solomon different. His fortune wasn't an accident, and it wasn't an inheritance he stumbled into. It was a direct response to a specific kind of desire. He didn't just want more. He wanted understanding. He wanted the kind of clarity that could guide a nation, solve disputes, and build something that would last beyond his lifetime. And because that desire matched the eternal law, everything else, the riches, the respect, the influence, came naturally. Think about that. The gold didn't come first. The palace didn't come first. The mindset came first. And not just any mindset, a mind disciplined enough to hear truth in silence, a mind aligned with principles that don't expire. That's why the ancients built the way they did. They weren't rushing to show off results. They weren't chasing applause. They were laying foundations in quiet, knowing the structure would speak for itself. Meanwhile, most of us today are caught up in the opposite. We're obsessed with showing the appearance of success before we've built the substance. We want the mansion without the blueprint. the empire without the order. But here's the law Solomon lived by. When you align with divine order first, riches have to follow. They can't help it. They're drawn to the structure you've built inside. It's like magnetism, the gold is the metal, but your wisdom is the magnet. And here's the kicker. That law hasn't changed. It still works exactly the same today. The tragedy? Most people don't even look for the magnet anymore. They go straight for the metal, grabbing whatever they can, never realizing that without the magnet, it won't stick. That's why they end up trapped working for systems they should be in charge of. So, let's flip this script. Stop asking, where's the gold? Start asking, how do I become the kind of person the gold can't ignore? Because here's the promise. When wisdom becomes your priority, wealth becomes your byproduct. And when you've built on that kind of foundation, no system, no setback, no failure can take it from you. That's the law Solomon mastered, and it's still open for anyone willing to follow it. If you really want to know where true wealth begins, let's clear something up. It doesn't start with money. That's the mistake almost everyone makes. They think, if I just had more cash, everything would change. But money is a result, not the root. The real starting point? Understanding. Solomon's story proves it. When he stepped into power, he didn't ask for treasure, armies, or a longer life. He asked for one thing. Give me an understanding heart. That's not a request a greedy man makes, that's the request of someone who sees the bigger game. And because his request was aligned with the higher law, money didn't just appear, it followed him like a shadow. It came as a servant, not a master. That's exactly how the industrial titan Andrew Carnegie played the game too. He didn't surround himself with flatterers or yes men. He built a circle of thinkers, men who could spot patterns, calculate outcomes, and see what the average eye missed. That mental power was the engine that drove his empire. The wealth was just the exhaust. Here's why this matters. When you chase money directly, you put yourself in a position of weakness. You're always reacting, always running. But when you operate from understanding, money reacts to you. You set the terms, you control the pace. Think of it like farming. The gold is the harvest, but if you don't plant the right seed, nurture it, and protect it, the soil stays empty. Understanding is that seed, and it's a seed no one can steal from you once it's planted. And here's the best part, when you operate this way, you're no longer competing in the same arena as everyone else. They're fighting over scraps, you're building the whole table. So, if you've been measuring your progress only by what's in your bank account, you've been tracking the wrong metric. Start measuring by how much you understand about your craft, your environment, your own mind. Because when you master understanding first, the wealth you build is the kind that lasts, the kind no market crash, no betrayal, no bad year can erase. Here's the trap a lot of people fall into. They treat learning like chasing the latest gadget. Every week it's a new hack, a new book, a new secret someone swears will change their life. But Solomon didn't build his empire by collecting random tips. He built it by mastering principles, the kind that work in any era, under any condition. See, trends are like waves. They rise, they crash, and they disappear. Principles, they're the tide. They're constant. You can build a whole harbor around them, and it will stand for generations. If you want to live like Solomon, you've got to make study a ritual, not a hobby. And I'm not talking about binging a bunch of motivational clips just to feel good for a day. I'm talking about extracting understanding from what you consume. Slowing down enough to ask, why does this work? What's the law behind it? Stop running from one shiny secret to the next. Begin by revisiting the old laws you've been ignoring. Order before motion, clarity before decision, cause before effect, stillness before action. That's how you build something permanent. Most people skip this part because it's not flashy. You can't post stillness on Instagram. You can't go viral from being in your room thinking. But that's exactly where the real power is forged, in the quiet, in the discipline, in the repetition of honoring principles that don't bend. Think about it. The rich man who forgets this becomes broke the moment his environment changes. The wise man who lives by principle, he can lose everything and rebuild from scratch, because the real wealth is in his mind. So here's your creed for this stage. I do not chase riches, I command them by wisdom. I sow understanding, and I reap gold. Say it in the morning. Say it before you sleep. Repeat it until it's carved so deep in your thinking that it becomes instinct. Because when principles guide you, trends can't shake you. And when you live like that, you stop reacting to the world, and the world starts reacting to you. Most people lose the battle before it even starts, not because the world is against them, but because they've never learned how to run their own mind. Think about it. Can you command your thoughts like a general commands soldiers? Most can't. Their mind is like a castle with the gates wide open. Anyone, anything, any random worry can just stroll in. Solomon wasn't like that. He ruled nations, but the first kingdom he mastered was the one inside his own head. His judgments, like the famous story of the two mothers fighting over a child, didn't come from charisma or guesswork. They came from an inner law, a disciplined mind trained to cut through noise. And that's where stillness comes in. Not just being quiet, but learning to silence the chaos long enough to hear what's actually true. In a world that never shuts up, stillness is a weapon. Here's what you've got to do. Set law over your thinking. Wake up and decide. What thoughts do I allow in today? Which doubts need to be silenced? Which truths need to be repeated until they own the room? Because here's the reality, a mind without guards will be conquered. If you wouldn't leave your front door open all night, why leave your mental gates unprotected? That's why your morning is sacred. Don't touch the world before you've set your inner order. Don't scroll, don't check, don't react. Sit in silence. Direct your thoughts like traffic. Decide where they're going before they scatter. And here's the creed for this. My outer world is the reflection of my inner law. Let those words guide your focus, your speech, your actions. Because the man who doesn't rule within will always be ruled by what's outside. Solomon wasn't swayed by trends or the noise of the crowd. He understood that every thought is a seed, and every word you speak is water. He planted with intention. He spoke with calculation. And his kingdom was simply the harvest of that discipline. Yours can be too, but only if you start guarding the gates of your mind like your entire future depends on it. Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Power isn't always a blessing. In the wrong hands, it's a wrecking ball. That's why so many people crash the moment they make it. They wanted the spotlight before they had the backbone to stand under it. They wanted influence before they had the structure to handle it. And the very thing they thought would make them ends up breaking them. Solomon knew better. When he was offered the chance to ask for anything, riches, victory over enemies, long life, he didn't go for any of that. He asked for discernment, the ability to judge wisely, the insight to rule without destroying what he built. That's why his success endured. Because here's the truth. Power without preparation is poison. It blinds you. It magnifies your weaknesses. It multiplies the cracks that were already there. That's why sometimes, when you feel like you've been denied an opportunity, you weren't being rejected, you were being protected. Protected from the weight of something you weren't ready to carry yet. Look at Thomas Edison. The man tested over 10,000 different materials before finding the filament that would light the world. He wasn't chasing a shortcut, he was building the kind of mind that could outlast failure after failure. That patience, that preparation, that was his real invention. It's the same with you. Stop praying for an escape from the grind. Start asking for the wisdom to manage the reward when it comes. Make this your creed. I ask for wisdom to match the wealth I will hold. I prepare my mind so my fortune will stand. And understand these aren't feel-good affirmations. These are laws, the kind you live by until they shape you into someone who can carry power without it crushing you. Because if you skip this, you may still get the gold, but you won't be able to keep it. And nothing is more painful than losing something you weren't prepared to hold. Solomon's reign wasn't an accident. It was the result of becoming the man who could sustain the throne before he ever sat on it. One of Solomon's greatest strengths had nothing to do with armies or wealth. It was his timing. He knew when to act, and just as importantly, when not to. He understood that a poorly timed move can destroy years of progress, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait. Most people lose battles not because they're weak, but because they speak too soon. They negotiate before they understand. They confess fear instead of directing the moment. They react when they should pause. Solomon lived by a different code. He spoke only when his words would bring clarity, never confusion. He knew that words aren't just sounds, they're weapons. You can use them to build, or you can use them to burn down everything you've worked for. That's why you need a law over your mouth, a code that says, say nothing reactive, say nothing unmeasured, say nothing that weakens your future. And here's the creed for this part of your life. I speak only when it builds. My words are weapons of order. I govern my tongue, therefore I command my outcomes. You've got to drill that into your mind, because in the heat of the moment, it's easy to talk just to feel in control, but the wise know that silence can be the loudest move in the room. When you're tempted to blurt something out for validation, pause. When you feel the urge to prove yourself with words, remember, empires aren't built by those who talk first, but by those who speak last, and with precision. Solomon's empire didn't start with a speech. It began with a prayer for wisdom and the ability to understand the law beneath all things. That's why his words carried weight. They were rooted in something deeper than ego. So here's your challenge. Create space for silence every single day, even if it's 5 minutes alone. Ask nothing. Say nothing. Listen. That's where timing is sharpened and speech becomes a weapon you control, not a habit that controls you. Because when you master when to speak and when not to, you stop playing the world's game and start making the world play yours.